Welcome back to AM Northwest. Our next guest played professional soccer for 6 years on 6 teams in 6 countries. Her debut book details the joy and pain of playing a sport she loved, but ultimately had to leave behind. We welcome the author of The Striker and the Clock, Portland native Georgia Cloepfil. Good to have you with us, Georgia. This is fun to read, I have to say. So let's talk about why you wanted to write it.
You know, I always was a literary person. I loved writing and reading growing up, and I just taking notes while I played the whole time, writing little bits. So started writing this, 8 years ago while I was playing, and when I sort of started looking back at the notes after I finished, I picked up on all these themes arising: ambition and gender, pain, endurance, these big ideas that felt really important to me. And I look at the books I love, and there just weren't a ton of sports stories that were very nuanced, especially women's sports stories.
Women's sports, yeah.
And so I sort of wanted to write into that space where I was missing a book that might speak to that.
You've loved soccer since you were just a tiny little thing, right?
Yes,
I mean, it was your passion.
It was. I loved it. It was very joyful. Grew up in Portland playing all over this city, so.
Oh, that's so great. Okay, so, but you mentioned something that I think is really fascinating. You said something about how there's a frame. If you love your job, it will never be. If you love what you do, it will not be. You'll never work a day in your life. Thank you for finishing that. I know I have it written down here, but that's really not the case.
Right. Yeah, I revisit that line later in the book and say, if you love your job, you'll actually work every single day of your life. And it's not what it seems, sort of chasing a dream or living a dream from the outside. It seems so amazing, but when you're sort of obsessed with something and obsessed with pursuing excellence in anything, whether it's sports or something else, it's really all-consuming and intense and has major ups and downs. Especially the world of women's sports overseas is sort of there's a lot going on outside of the spotlight there that is challenging.
Talk to me about playing soccer in South Korea.
Yeah, I mean, I went there because they pay a living wage. I had a friend from Australia playing there. I thought, how cool to have a full-time gig, and all my teammates have full-time gigs. We're not piecing this together.
Right.
But it was also really intense because of that, and when people are paid to professionalize the thing they love, it does change a little bit.
Absolutely.
Right? Now it's a job, now it's a duty, on top of loving it, but the love sometimes can get pushed to the side. So me coming from the United States, where you're sort of just doing it for the love of the game, I played Division III soccer, I wasn't given a scholarship, I just loved it. And so that was a bit of a wake-up call to understand that it does change, and it's not the same for everyone in every culture. The relationship to like work and dreams and joy is different wherever you go.
But also, you can't really live a life. Like, soccer is it 24/7 essentially. So like, you'd play soccer and then you'd go to your little apartment with your roommate who you didn't really connect with but you can't just play the game then go home to a home with a family, all of that. It's a very different life. Then tell me about Lithuania, because that was a different experience.
Yeah. So I played on like a Champions League contract, so a very short contract in Lithuania, going to play in an international tournament, and I had 2 American roommates. So sometimes the foreign players are all lumped together. And we had a blast, but it was, it was a very different country, and we played, and all of my teammates had jobs pretty much. The money was much less, but I was living with, and you're sort of like bonded together by the experience, definitely, of just being plopped in another country. And
what would you say to a young girl who's playing soccer now and who pictures, well, I can do this, I can travel the world, I can do what I love and have a family and do all of that? It's not possible, is it?
Well, it's getting more and more possible. I mean, there's so many more opportunities in the United States now, and so many more and better opportunities overseas, even in the past, 5 years since I wrote this book. So it's definitely possible. You need to have a sort of resilience about you and endurance. Be prepared to sort of endure through really hard things, but that's part of the reason it was really a great thing to do for me.
Right.
You learn a lot about yourself, and again, there are more opportunities that are becoming possible.
Which is fantastic. It's great to see women's sports doing so much better.
It's great.
Right, I just love it. What are you doing now, and how happy are you now?
Complicated question. I coached women's soccer. I'm the assistant coach at Whitman College in Walla Walla.
Walla Walla.
And I teach writing there as well. And write in my other free time. So it's nice to be connected to young players in that way, and coaching. It's really different. It does not sort of fill the same cups as when you're playing, but it's a joy to be with that.
But really, with any career that involves sport and your body, one injury, and you could be out.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to have things prepared once you're not playing the game.
Totally. That's another thing about women's soccer is like, okay, I'm not making enough to retire after I finish unless I'm wildly famous. So what is the other life that I'm going to foster for me? For me, it was writing. Right? And so it's a gift to have that balance in your life, because it's true that for anyone, even the most famous, a career could just end. And to have like another life that you've grown to love as well is really important. But it's also sort of unfortunate that women have to also
always
have a
have
second plan, because the money's not enough.
Well, you have a book event tonight at Powell's at 7 p.m. We're going to put the information on our website at KATU.com. The book is titled The Striker and the Clock, Georgia Cloepfil. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Great
so
work,
much.
by the way.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be right back with more AM Northwest. Don't go away.